experiences that have led me to build this product, right? So I'm assuming that all of you have come across production issues. You have spent like tons of Friday nights and Saturday, Sundays in office. And I'm one of you. So about 28 months back, I started building this open source tool called Unveils. It's fully open source, and the aim of this tool is to be able to replay production traffic locally, right? So before this demo, like till this conference, I tried very hard to make that demo fully workable. But the part where we put this on production and the part where we fetch it from production and we make it perform, that's still not ready. But I'll show you how that works, at least on local host, right? So this graph is some intellectual representation of what it takes to fix a production, what it takes to fix a decent production. So essentially, it tells you that if a bug is introduced in requirement phase and caught in requirement, the cost to fix that bug is almost negligible. Similarly, if it is introduced in architectural phase and it's caught in architecture, the cost is negligible. And similarly, when you code, and that's when you introduce a bug, and that's when if it is fixed, the cost to fix that bug is lowest. But introduce it anywhere and find that in production, detect it in production, the cost to fix that bug is huge, right? About me, I and my partner in crime, we have worked in these companies like Flipkart, Airtel, where my previous startup was acquired, PayU and Ola, right? And every time even a tiny bug made it to production, even for a couple of hours, we lost like a ton of money. And that sort of introduced us to this anxiety just before this big billion day deployments, right? So just before Diwali or just before some sort of Christmas, they used to announce this big billion day. And just before this big billion day, we used to have an anxiety what's going to go wrong. We'll have to do we have to spend a lot of weekends on in the company and so on and so forth. So that was the basis of sort of us starting this company or this open source tool. So I want first, before I showcase this tool, I want to talk about my own learnings from these intense deployment days and what are the three reasons, despite following TDD, despite writing tests, despite writing following every philosophy out there for tests, why bugs make it to production. So the first one is I want to take a example of this hypothetical team. So as your company grows beyond a few teams or a few platforms or products, dependencies set in. And trust me, this might sound very trivial, but dependencies are a cause of a lot of production issues. At least that's what I have seen in 15 years of my career. Now take an example of this hypothetical company where there is a payment scheme, there is a cab scheme, and there is a restaurant scheme, right? Now cabs and restaurants depend on payments, so let's check out. Simple, right? It is hardly. I'm not going in depth, just trying to give you like an overview of how dependency is set in. And what happens then? A product manager comes, right? Who the fault is. And then the product manager says, hey, there is this Dashera coming, and I want this couponing logic to be introduced in this payments, which would just gives them 10% of discount for certain logic, right? And I have the CEOs go ahead, please go and make it live within a week's time. The payments team, they say, yeah, fine, the logic is clear, and they will go ahead and make the changes, right? So they make the changes, and they make the change on day one, right? So this is the D-Day basically. And then what happens is everyone is happy, the payments, the product manager's requirements are satisfied. The restaurant, so this was meant for say restaurant being happy because the customers are getting the necessary discounts, right? But what happens is Cabs was not aware of this change, and Cabs, their integration just never ran. And then their customers started seeing some abnormal payments. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this happened only a few days back, where a very famous cab company user got about 7 crore 66 lakhs worth of bill, which roughly translates to so 760 so it roughly translates to about 950K if there is somebody not familiar. So 950K USD, and some other user got about 1 crore worth of bill, which was about 150K USD. and the famous company has no customer care. So the rickshaw driver would let the user go until he pays this amount. It's just calculating the number of years it would take to pay this much, right? So why does this happen? I will test everything that depends on me. Says no one ever. Right? Everybody is about testing their own downstream dependencies, and if it works fine, we just move on. Like, who cares about the upstreams, right? Upstream dependencies at times are not even known. So when in large companies, when new people start coming in, tell me who gives them the KT that hey boss, this API is being used by 100 other teams. Nobody knows, right? Like what the upstream dependencies are. So even if you are making changes, who to go and talk to, that knowledge itself doesn't exist at a lot of times. Mocks, right? When other teams are using your mocks, these mocks sadly are outdated. Because these mocks are outdated, their test will always keep passing without actually knowing that hey, something is not wrong. Their integration tests, which are supposed to test the integration and staging, they are not triggered in time. I'll tell you this classic case of payments change, right? Since there were, so I gave only 3 examples. Imagine there are 50 teams. So the product manager say, hey, your own tests are passing, right? So what's stopping us from going to production? The answer that time, since the upstream dependencies are not known, the answer is very hard. You just have to say, yeah, let's go ahead because all are green. And these integration tests for the other upstream are not really triggered in time. And funny sometimes, right? This communication about changes in, hey, I'm having a signature change in this API. They're in emails. I don't know what's the point. And sometimes, there's a funny incident where a different team member told me that they just ended up deleting all such emails because there were too many such alerts and they didn't find what was the relevant one. So I'm sure I must have got the email, but I deleted that email just instantly the moment I saw it. And these are the 4 reasons where like the dependencies is such a big issues right now in companies, right? The second one, the production versus local setup are hugely different. Right? When you say production setup, so I just started noting down a few things that came on top of my head, and this is still not the full list either. The production is so vastly different from local. So I want to give an example of one of my experience at a very large telco. Right? So we were creating a CRM and we were using Temple. How many of you have used Temple? Raise your hands. So Temporal uses Cassandra billing. Cassandra needs extremely high throughput, right? So all our workflows were supposed to take less than a second. They were taking less than a second on our local host, on our staging, and on our load testing setup also. But on production every day at 11, we used to see 1 second becoming 10 minutes, and we had no clue why. So for 2 months we tried, and we realized that the infra team had given the same storage to 3 other teams. So our storage was being shared. So sometimes, like your own debugging skills, they don't do any good. No AI, nothing could have solved that matter. It's a very massive serendipity that we ran into, and then we realized that this was a bug. Like what I'm going to talk about doesn't really solve for this production versus local, but I want to give a sense of what causes production issues. And this is one of the major reasons, right? No matter what TDD, what philosophy you follow, you are never going to sort of be able to solve this. Observability tools to such an extent, to certain extent, do solve that. The third one is too many scenarios, right? I'll shortly show you like a page that has so many scenarios, but devs and QAs will cover only what's humanly possible. It's not, but your users will always find some innovative way of interacting with your software and that creates a new path. You might want to go and see the user recordings and see how they interact versus how devs versus and QAs think that they will interact, right? So here is an example of a very famous e-commerce website. Now, just to render this page, you can actually go check the network tab. Internally, they do about 50 to 60 downstream service calls just to render this one page, right? So imagine one engineer on that 58th service, and he now needs to make a code change. He has no clue what upstream dependencies need to be tested because there is just too many. So, every time like a production issue made it to, like bug made it to production, right? We sat down, we had those RCA meetings, and we blamed the other team that they didn't communicate, we didn't communicate. We said, hey, let's add more, let's follow TDD more aggressively, let's add more code reviews, let's add more AI tools, to do that. And yet, production's issues never stopped coming. But still made it to production. So one thing we realized after a lot of things is, a lot of experiences, the tests you write, they don't really cover everything. The one analogy I like to give is trying to cover all the scenarios with traditional testing, like trying to fill Grand Canyon with a teaspoon. Not happening. You can try to do that for it. So with that, now I want to move to a demo. And I firstly want to tell that this is our GitHub URL. Please go and start us. Do contribute if you like the work we are doing. So the way this works is basically there is a SDK. This SDK is extended using Lombok. So how many of you have used Lombok? Yes. So we sort of extended the style of adding code in compile type so that you don't have to do anything. And these we add logging probes to your code, and these logging probes actually create logs that are plugin scans. So there are two parts to this. One is an SDK, the other one is a plugin. And once you add an SDK to your application, the logs that are created when your application runs are scanned by the plugin. And then the plugin lets you replay every, we call them replay candidates. So every replay candidates when you make your code change. Right? So that's how it works. And I want to quickly now switch on to the ID. You guys can see this, right? Last one. Yeah. So the way this would work is go to preferences, go to plugins, install this plugin called, since it's already installed, we need to skip that. And once you install, we'll start seeing those icons, right? I'll explain shortly what those icons mean. But basically, this ghost icon means that this line can be mocked, and you can mock it with the recorded data directly without having to worry about creating mocks. And this connects back to the first point I was mentioning, right? Like the mocks are always outdated. So here, you will use always the live and latest recording, so that no mocks are ever outdated. You have like the per second real-time view of all the mocks, right?
So this mock, that is
Yeah, I'll show you. Just give me a second. So, and the other bit is, this. Yeah, so you basically go through this flow, you add this dependency. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to say add this dependency here. And all I'm going to do is add this @unlock annotation, which is a very Lombok style implementation. What happens underneath, I'll also show you the code post compile so that you see the logging probes added to the code. And then what you do is you just start your code in debug mode or run mode, that is fine. Now, this on the right side, you will start seeing what we call as a live view, right? And this live view tells you that whatever is happening in your application, it gives you a live view of that. Essentially, now when I start my application, you will see that, hey, this main function has taken whatever time. Yeah, so this main has taken 4 seconds roughly, etc. Right? And the second thing is, now quickly jumping on to the demo where I showed you recording. We have something called as direct invoke, and the reason we did was this direct invoke feature was when we had to debug deep inside our code, right? We either had to expose an HTTP endpoint and then come all the way from postmortem and do every till the point we were debugging, or we had to write a unit test, and that felt like a lot of work. So we came up with this thing called direct invoke. What we can do is we can just call just this method and be productive around it, right? So the moment you click on this icon 56, you get this predefined customer profile, which you can edit. So what you do that. right? So I just added my details, right? And I say execute method. So it just executes this method in the background. And then you immediately get to see what is the time taken to execute that method. You can see this small icon here. Then what is the lines that are covered due to this execution. So we want to give you a sense of code coverage as well. And I'll come to that part also shortly. You can hover for what is the input argument and what is the output argument, right? Let's quickly check if the customer we added does exist in the in the DB or not. So this is the DB call, right? And you do see that line number 57 has a mock icon. So if you click on it, you will see that there is a there is a mock icon here. You can actually go and record it. So if you see this, there is a when and then condition which we can edit and then save the mock code. Yeah. So once you do that, I have written a very simple function here, which is basically an e-commerce or say a restaurant delivery context, can deliver. Right? So this can deliver function takes some sort of a customer ID, then calls this it calls this DB. It basically makes a DB call and then fetches the customer profile details. It then fetches the location of that customer with the static call. Then it makes an API call to fetch the weather information of that location. And then these are two Redis calls, so line number 35 and line number 26. And these Redis calls check if, first fetch all the available locations, then delivery locations, and then fetch all the available locations in that area. And if the available unit size is 0, it just returns null. Otherwise, it checks if the precipitation in that area is less than, it checks the deliverable flag to true, and it says it's false. Obviously, it's very simplistic, that simple example. It does work on complex Java code basis as well. But I want to take this examples where everybody can follow, right? So I call this with a customer ID 10. Remember, this function name is can deliver. I execute this method, and immediately in the live view, I will see every single downstream call that has happened. So, get available units is inside delivery unit service, get all delivery units is inside delivery units again. These are the API calls, so on and so forth. Now, basically, if I click on this, you get to see how much time every line is taken to execute. And this helps you with the fact that what is taking time, go and fix that. So if you see those numbers here, 61 millisecond, 1 millisecond, and you can see that this call is taken about 965 milliseconds from this line, right? And then this Redis call is taken about 363 milliseconds. And then you also see a visual representation of where the code has been moved. So it didn't go to the else loop, it didn't go to this return null statement, etc. Right? So this is to give you a sort of visual representation of where the code execution is here. What you can do then is, now coming to the part where you replay. The way you replay is very simple. Just select all the functions that you want to, method that you want to replay. And obviously remove this main method. It makes no sense to sort of save it. You also do away with this weather information API call. And what I do is, I'll also remove this convert to object because that's not really important for me. And I'm going to just say save. Yeah. So the moment I say save, there are like 6 replays selected. It will show you like which replays these are, what lines they cover, what assertions are being made. It also tells you the downstream mocks that it triggered. And these downstream mocks will be mapped to the replay. So that when that replay happens, whatever is downstream dependent, it will be automatically mocked. You don't have to do anything. And then there are about 97 assertions for all these method calls. Right? So inside this get, so there is this get location from address, there is this deliver units call, etc. etc. We are auto-defining these assertions for you. Why we auto-define? So that we can do it with noisy data, timestamp or other stuff. You don't need to sort of worry about that. So all you need to do, there's another thing. So you can save the replay either in unit or integration panel. Which means if you save that as a unit, everything that's downstream and dependent gets mocked. If you save that as an integration test, it gets called. I mean, there is nothing that gets mocked. Right? Just confirm And all these replays are saved inside your test resources Java folder, resources unlock folder, and they are in the form of a JSON. So you can commit them to your Git or wherever, and your teammates can sort of go and start replaying them, right? And how do you replay them then? Very simple. You basically add this runner test, which we have, and this runner test is based on whether it's JNet. And you go and just like run this. The moment you run, all the replay tests that I just saved get triggered, and they run. Just the way you see the test, you can also see some of those tests. Can you see this? Yeah. It's here. I don't know, maybe I should use it. Yeah. Or you can, the way to run this with ambient test is a simple ambient test command. So you run ambient test and all the replay tests run. So if I were to actually go and make a code change here, like if I were to just say, okay, this get precipitation, maybe I'll just make this, I'll change this condition, right? And I will run ambient test now. So you can see all the tests were passing so far. And with ambient test, let's see if this fails now. So you can see that like one case failed, and then what is the expected value, what is the actual value. Again, that's going to be this. Let's see. What remove this? The MC there. Okay. Yeah, so there is this, expected value actually, just like a test failing, right? It tells you exactly what to check for. We also tell you exactly what to check for, right? You can also generate reports from this. So this is fully integrated into the existing CI/CD. So you use Surefires to get the reports. So you just run this simple Surefire command. You get the coverage report and everything. One question I get asked often is that how is this different from any of the AI related test generating tools? So so take for this example if else loop. So the way AI generated tests work is they will just blindly cover if else as is, and they give the test that satisfy this code. But what we say is they create the replayers only that reflect the real world scenarios and don't get into generating and satisfying for all the loops out there. Towards this else loop, in that case, you will get like that. You should probably refactor or get rid of that. Right? And not run into satisfying it else just because it's there and saying that it will become code coverage to it. So that's the difference. Yeah, so I'll quickly show you how the report looks like. Yeah, so it's the same one that you see from your short package. So what is the case for you, which what is what time, etc. etc. So yeah, so this is not it. I want to show you like one more thing that we are really, but somebody had a doubt. So
This only for Java.
So JVM, Java, Kotlin, and Scala. So, frankly, I'm yet to test it on Kotlin and Scala. Java, both reactive, non-reactive framework is support. Yeah.
Is it open source or?
Yeah. So I want to show you that this is our method. Please start again.
By some company?
Sorry?
It is sponsored by some company?
It's my company.
Okay.
There's just two people.
So why I'm saying if we recommend our own company and then they will ask us how many stars are there, how many people are.
I will give stars and recommend it.
That's a good way. So it's a MIT license.
It's MIT, yeah. So you can use it any way you want. There is no paid plan to come up with. So we are rather thinking we will do a paid support where if something like we have a complex architecture where deployment needs to be done in a certain way. So we have been thinking of monetizing it that way.
Production.
Right. So I'll come to that. So you understood how the record and replay works, right?
I have a question. Does it support the downstream external database?
Yeah. So that's the reason I took this as an example was that look, this is an API call. This weather info is an API call. This is a DB call. This is a static method. So leave that. And these two are Redis calls. So DB anything external.
But then how do we manage permission from local? They don't have access to the production.
Yeah. So I'll come to that, and that's not how it has been architectured. So the way this is supposed to work in production is something like this. So you add the unlocked SDK, deploy this on production. While you add the SDK, you also give a URL of our application server, and this application server has a S3 behind it.
That is your application.
No, so it's self-hosted again. Even that is open source. Nothing comes to it. Now this unlocked application server has an S3 behind it, and it will do the data masking. So I'm sure like some problem related to PII or some sort of real world user data getting slided down to the replays will come. So we have already added data masking in the application server pipeline itself. So yeah, does that answer your question?
So I'm stored as a plugin or a SDK to work with on the development.
So it's both. You first start with the plugin. You go to your IntelliJ IDE. To show it to your audience. So you essentially start with the IntelliJ IDE of preferences, and then go to plugins, search for unlock. Once you install this, we have about 10,000 downloads.
Is it available for Visual Studio also or just this side?
No, so for JVM mostly it's IntelliJ. People do ask for Eclipse also. We may support Eclipse in future. If some of you are interested in contributing, do that. But VS Code for Java may not be available. You use VS Code for Java?
Visual Studio.
Yeah.
For .NET.
So this is mainly for JVM.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Supporting it for the Spring Boot application or the
Any Java? Just an investing also.
Yeah. So this works on the log for the production.
Yeah. That's
Manually all the logs.
No, you don't have to. That's the beauty. So you only add this one single annotation called add and log, and everything gets logged automatically. You have to do it.
Is it similar to any APIs or
Yeah, so it's like saying APM level of logging of APM is very top level. Since even open telemetry would log a lot lesser compared to what we log. Like I showed you, right, we actually have information related to every line of your code, how much time it took, what is the what is the execution time for every method, etc. No APM, no.
there's a Apache Skywalker, but also does like it doesn't do what we do in the optimal case.
Yeah.
So like one of the challenges like for understanding bigger automation, if you want to bring a tool the change totally new.
Yeah.
It like and it will be real time pushing logs to that. Is it in some way like can we plug our existing APM logs to
You
your
can. So there are multiple ways. See, the replay doesn't need to happen on production. The replay can happen on a dedicated separate setup also. So you check all the top level APM logs that APM gives you, and then replay them here. That also works.
you cannot ingest
No, ingesting won't work. This is far in-depth logs compared to what APM has. You'll have to re-execute the whole thing.
Obviously, might have performance over it.
Yeah, so that's the part I'm working on. We're trying to get some sort of, statistics that would present before and after, etc. But give me another month's time and we should see that. We tried very hard to get that before this deadline.
Are you having any like page or like blog?
Yeah. So we in fact blog heavily about Java. In fact, we have written how does Lombok work underneath very much in depth. So you can actually go to log.io and go to blog. And we wrote a post about integrating JWT, Spring Security, etc. So yeah, we blog quite.
You said you are using S3 as a service. So are you vendor logged into AWS or can it be?
No, no, we support medium also. I mean, that's completely different.
And I already also.
Yes, sorry, one question. Like, I think you gave a great example of partner, like a company is like a store and just actually people trying to build this stuff. So, like, do you capture so today in the dev environment, if like let us example the search box is there, you have
Yeah.
the search box. People in a dev environment may check 100 times, but then 10 times. So do you capture everything or that like to the indicate? And
Yeah, so now there the, like to meet the performance requirements, there we are sort of deduplicating a lot of unnecessary, data that is not to be logged. We are also tracking like if this sort of request travels to same number of exact lines of code, then skip that, etc. So we are doing all such.
that is like particular capture the whole price.
Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you, distributed microservice, you will have to put the SDK everywhere. So wherever you have put the SDK, that's where it will record. So if you're calling some other service which doesn't have the SDK, then it won't record.
But if you are not usually that's so like a service. You want to revise the or revise the and so both one of the chain. And others are not doing that.
Yeah, so it will do everything for
Both, but for each like from the to the let's say outside everything.
I mean, that's what I tried showing you. There's another thing I want to show. Maybe you can pause on the Q&A. No, so I'll come there. I'll come there. So, there's so much hype around this whole LLMs thing. So, we had so much of data in there, and we wanted to do something with it, combining the LLMs. And the idea was, I started off with saying that you spend so many Saturdays and Sundays spending on fixing the things, right? So what we came up with is an AI code fixer in runtime. So wherever in the runtime you ran into an issue, you can just go to this dashboard, and you can see this timeline of exactly what has happened. So I just I just executed the scan deliver, right? And the scan deliver called get customer by ID, get location from address. It gives you that entire stack trace in a way. So this is a user journey. Think of this as a user journey, right? So you click on this user journey and then just tell the AI what needs to be fixed, right? So we are trying to automate this, tell the AI part also. If we are able to smartly figure out, what needs to be fixed, we will do that. But I just wrote the prompt so that I don't have to write it here. I'm going to say, hey, in this method can deliver, it's checking if precipitation is less than 3. When they're setting the set can deliver flag to true. You also want to check if the humidity is less than 65 before setting the flag to true. And then I've given some, do not change the method signature and stuff, right? So if you see the method here, right now it's sort of checking this, just the precipitation bit, if that's less than 3 or not. What it will do is, the moment I submit, we are using CodeGamer as a LLM, and it submits this entire stack trace with as much in-depth data as possible. And then it creates a PR on one of the, let me show this to you. It creates the PR on that row, and then it runs all the replay tests. It ensures that the PR is not hallucinating or giving some sort of a wrong, wrong input. And then basically we deploy it to production. So this PR got created just now, and then you can see that the files changed here. And so basically it added this condition. In addition to this get precipitation less than, we added this 65. It's not fully yet there. So what we are trying to do is check what replay test failed, feed it back to the LLM, and get till everything passes, so that that manual that manual input that's needed to get this to work just goes away. But there's also work in progress. But I had a demo to show. So yeah, now back to your question.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Never love what you have done. So, love what you have done. So, I just wanted to know how you have architectured it so that I could, extend this to other languages as well.
Yeah, we would love you to do that. So first you'll have to start, like, obviously it differs from language to language, but in JVM, in Java, not even JVM, the way we have done is, we have extended exactly how long-walk works. And long-walk works so flawlessly that nobody ever bothered to see how it works. But here is a block, start from that. How does the long-walk magic work? And start understanding what transformations they do, and we've done the exact same thing. There will be some minor modifications, and we've done the exact same ones, so that in compiled time, you have the exact same thing what we have in Java. And then once you have that, we have another thing called scanning. The scanning is a part of the plugin that we have. So I don't know how many of you have come across this thing called 1BRC? 1BRC channel?
1 billion.
Yeah, 1 billion. So we have used a lot of inspiration from 1BRC to, there are like billions and like tons of logs getting created. And you see that candidate almost instantly. There's a lot of inspiration taken from 1BRC. Read that. And our code is open source. Join our Discord, we are happy to sort of walk you through. But then, yeah, we are sort of also moving towards using AI much in depth in the logs that we have. Like I said, we have even the time it takes to execute one single line. Nobody has that type of information. We plan to use that with other use cases.
But some discussion, right? It's not there another one because we can't reach from starting to do.
We are getting there, it's not there today.
But good, if you started.
How does this, you were supposed to show that, how does this production look like?
Yeah, so this is how it works. All I have sadly is a new style PPT saying about that, but we will get there in about a month's time. I'm trying to get some benchmarks presented on our blog for what is the performance before and after, what types of, say, write heavy or like what types of things take a lot of time and how do we mitigate that. But then once there, this is how it will go.
So the SDK pushes the finally.
Yes, because that's a simple, yeah, currently it's just a project. We have a way of, we have fault tolerance on the scanning side. So there is a logic there. There is a buffer that we try to fill and based on the CPU available, there is some logic. So we don't try to do that in hardware usage in the audio.
How do we affect the How do we affect the data?
How do you design the data? Yeah, so there are different registers that we have card, emails, phone numbers, etc. And then you will have the ability to define registers and you can go beyond the platform patterns.
And it can be any kind of you got any option?
The streaming bit, it's not, we have to consider. Yeah, that needs to be thought through what applications of that. Because that also involves us doing it for scanning pipeline. Yeah, we'll have to see. No questions on the AI side. I pushed that through, sensing the hype around AI. This is
Far.
thanks. The AI crowd. So that's it. Yeah. No crowd. There were questions around the AI.
Because you know about it is going down.
So one question is, so you try to plan for multi-application dependency, like normally in our systems where one single warehouse is connected to either API or like into the in the warehouse, so the 20 applications, and all some are upstream, some are downstream.
Yeah.
Who is creating problem?
Yeah.
We don't know. It's
Yeah.
And that issue comes at 20 teams.
Yeah. So with that SDK in those 20 applications, and yes, we have a way, no, I mean, that's, we're saying that you can do that within a minute. Now that with the LLMs, etc., you can plan to do that. So in fact, the dashboard I tried showing sometime back was the same. So these are the exact user journeys we plan to show, and then things like SRE or QA or whoever sort of is responsible for user fees can come and select that user journey and specifically come and put the report.
But the DB dependency you want to get. Because not everything.
The which dependency?
DB dependency. So the direct application to the lightning to the warehouse.
No, so you, like the recording ends where, you know, so say for example, if this is a DB call, this is where the boundary is. You can't do anything about the DB itself.
So only one place I have to put the log of that tag.
In Java application, put the simple, you know, add this, do you use gradle or form? Like, do you use gradle or gradle?
I got it, but I'm thinking your design.
Oh, okay. So wherever you have the application, just add a dependency, add this one annotation, and within this application framework itself, it will record everything.
So Shardul, when you get the annotation, right? So the annotation should be better. If I pick a Spring Boot application, I have to DID alpha main.
Yeah.
If my application is on Spring Boot.
Yeah, so in front of, like, wherever is your starting point, just add that and it works. So in fact, you can do that even for a class, so you just log just that class. Yeah, so the way to be in touch with us is just go to our website and join our Discord channel. We're very happy to answer any questions you have. Start maybe contributing, that you might be a great help. Do Eclipse plugin, we're studying there because we don't have time and value to do Eclipse. Yeah, thank you guys. I hope it's great.